Detectives Harukato and Shinisu Kamae from Japan's Modern Crimes Prevention Task Force are asked to assist security during a festival, where First Division officers are trying to locate a bomber targeting a foreign prince. Two amateur thieves, Yoko and Hiroshi, observe jewelry stores for a potential robbery. The ridiculously wealthy Desu Kambi meets the police superintendent Haru and requests a place on a squad at his choice. The bomber is arrested while the amateur thieves accidentally rob a sweet shop instead of a jewelry store and unknowingly flee in the bomber's van with the bomb to escape from the police. During their pursuit to stop the bomb-containing van, Daisuke inflicted damage on nearby vehicles and public facilities. He immediately reimbursed all the repair costs with double the damage costs through his artificial intelligence assistant, HUESC. The wealthy detective successfully pushes the van into a river to prevent a blast. At the same time, Haru rescues the thief. He then falls into the river while an amused Daisuke watches. Daisuke arrests two street performers for buying a drug, mescaline, and bribes them for their dealer's name. They identify the model Izazaki as the dealer and witness him selling drugs, but Daisuke decides not to arrest him. They learn that the narcotics came from the organized crime group Gondawara Gumi, run by mob boss Umezu. Keita decides to follow the drug dealer's latest girlfriend, only to follow her to a co-worker's mansion. He learns she is Suzu Kambi, Daisuke's relative working undercover. He discovered that Umezu, Gondawara Gumi's mob boss, is attending a party. Kato infiltrates the party and steals Umezu's phone for evidence. He managed to escape with the help of a friend, a journalist named Maeda, who was helping with the investigation, and Daisuke, who had EUSC purchase the building before attacking it with sleeping gas. The entire crime group is arrested for drug smuggling and murdering a fashion model. Kato is brought to meet Daisuke and Suzu's grandmother, who asks Kato to make Daisuke a good policeman. Kato becomes involved in an incident when a young man takes several music fans hostage. Kato's former Division 1 colleague arrives, causing him to flash back to an incident that rendered his gun-shooting abilities useless. Daisuke arrives at the scene, but rather than leaving with Daisuke, Haru decides to stay back and learns the man is streaming the incident live on ChainTube, a potential replacement to YouTube. Haru asks Daisuke to help him, so Daisuke launches smoke grenades and they infiltrate the train. Division 1 Chief Teiki orders Kato to shoot the man. Instead, Kato has each USC hack the man's emails and learns he aims to win prize money from ChainTube by reaching 10 million views so his sick sister can have surgery. The hostages, desperate to see their favorite band Yokorembo's last concert, attack, but Daisuke distracts them by paying to have Yokorembo sing outside the train. Kato has a chance to shoot but hesitates, so Daisuke steps in and pays for the sister's surgery himself. Instead of being disappointed with the crisis, Teiki praises Kato for a job well done. Kato asks Daisuke to find a child's lost puppy with HEUSC. Daisuke realizes that having stormed out of his house in a bad mood, he forgot the earring he used to contact HEUSC and lost his phone. Kato leaves the child with local police before Daisuke reveals his lack of access to his money. Suzu panics after learning Daisuke is loose in public without HEUSC. Their grandmother thinks the experience will be good for Daisuke. Daisuke goes shopping with Haru and then to his apartment for a night's stay, where he shows a lack of basic life skills. Haru asks why Daisuke joined the Modern Crimes Task Force, but Daisuke falls asleep before answering. Suzu stays up all night worrying about Daisuke surviving. The next day, Haru spends all day looking for the dog. Daisuke appears with the lost dog, delighting the child, but secretly informs Haru that he learned the original dog was killed by a car. Hence, the wealthy detective bought the dog's identical sibling from the local breeder. The task force is assigned to protect President Alvarez of Polier, as there are concerns that terrorists want to kill him. Daisuke, however, attends the embassy as Alvarez's guest. Alvarez wants the Kambi family's help to modernize Polier, but faces tough opposition from indigenous protesters. An infiltrator retrieves a package and murders the embassy chef to keep it secret. Haru and the task force befriend an elderly embassy janitor. Daisuke and Alvarez are sent to a safe room after discovering the chef's corpse. Daisuke has EUSC hacked security cameras so he can observe the situation. Haru chases the murderer fleeing the embassy while EUSC retrieves footage showing the murderer planting a tear gas canister designed by a Kambi Group company filled with VX gas inside the safe room with Daisuke and Alvarez. Haru catches the murderer, who disposes of the only key to the safe room down a drain, hoping Alvarez's death will prevent the dam from destroying his indigenous land. He then commits suicide before Haru can stop him. At the same time, HEUSC informs Daisuke that he cannot tell him how to disarm the canister, despite being a CAM product, and that Daisuke doesn't have the necessary authority. Haru manages to save them, having realized the janitor had a secret spare key and had been using the panic room to hide his dirty magazines. Alvarez returns to Poliator, while Nakamoto begins investigating the origins of the canister. Daisuke becomes suspicious of his lack of clearance to his own company. Nakamoto learns the Mizuho company probably made the canister device and informs Kato he has investigated Mizuho before. They confront Imura, a Mizuho executive, but are forced to leave when she starts recording them. Daisuke has HUSC hack Imura's electric car, forcing her to speed so he could arrest her. HUSC successfully hacks Imura's laptop during her interrogation, only to suddenly inform his shocked Daisuke he lacks the clearance to access specific folders due to their connection to the Kambi group. Kato is approached by Teiki and Hoshino, his former Division 1 boss and partner, respectively, who are suspicious of Kambi. Nakamoto locates incriminating evidence against Imura's son that Imura had covered up. Kato tries to talk to Daisuke, but is advised to walk away or potentially lose his job. Nakamoto receives a similar warning from their boss, Kiyomizu, about losing his pension. Regardless, Nakamoto uses the evidence against Imura's son to force her to reveal how Mizuho is linked to the Kam group. Kato, unwilling to allow blackmail, has Imura released from custody. Unfortunately, her electric car is hacked again, causing the battery to explode, killing Imura instantly. Nakamoto accuses Daisuke of Imura's murder. Kato learns from Kiyomizu that the last time Nakamoto investigated Mizuho, it was due to the murder of Sayuri Kambi, Daisuke's mother. Nakamoto and Teiki investigated the potential murder of Sayuri Kambi by Shigemaru, Daisuke's father. Nakamoto received no help from the Kambi family and instead stole a photo album from which a witness identified Shigemaru as the murderer. Police Director Seiki, Teiki's now deceased father-in-law, kept a close eye on the investigation. Nakamoto found a locker key in the album marked with the symbol for adalium, a dangerous material Shigemaru had been researching. Teiki located the locker while Nakamoto learned Shigemaru committed suicide, followed by the key being stolen from his desk. With Shigemaru dead and the key being stolen, the investigation was closed. Nakamoto plans to reopen the case, and Teiki labels Daisuke a suspect for Imura's murder. Kato calls Daisuke, who admits he hacked Imura's car, angering Kato so much he smashes his car through Daisuke's front gate. Daisuke insists he is innocent and only interested in solving Sayuri's murder. Teiki is gassed in his vehicle and experiences vivid hallucinations of Imura accusing him of her murder, fearing for his own life if he didn't sabotage the Sayuri investigation and tricking him into calling Director Seiki. He awakens in Daisuke's home, the hallucination having been created by an advanced virtual reality headset to trick him into revealing who he was afraid of during the Sayuri investigation, his own father-in-law, Director Seiki. Daisuke explains that after Nakamoto accused him of Imura's murder, he managed to convince him he was only interested in Sayuri's murder. Nakamoto agrees to hold Teiki in Daisuke's mansion while they find out what a dalium is. Nakamoto explains that he never discovered Shigemaru's lab's location, and now it no longer even exists in the Kambi company's records. Daisuke interrogates his grandmother, but she refuses to talk. Nakamoto infers from Teiki's fear that his father-in-law, Seiki, was murdered to cover something up. Teiki has been afraid for his own life ever since. Suzu realizes HUSC is actively hindering them by deleting information from the company's servers. Kato discovers the lab in a Kambi-owned mansion in the mountains, and Daisuke decides to infiltrate in secret. At the same time, Kato acts as a decoy outfitted with Suzu's military gadgets. An intruder enters Daisuke's house, trying to reach Teiki, just as Daisuke had hoped, only for the intruder to begin bypassing security using passwords belonging to Shigemaru. HUSC shuts down Suzu's supercomputer, and Teiki begins to panic while Nakamoto appears unconcerned. Daisuke infiltrates the lab and finds security recordings proving Shigemaru is alive. Suzu confronts the intruder, but is knocked out after seeing his face. Nakamoto also confronts the intruder, and Teiki finally decides to confront him. Later, Suzu wakes up to Kato and Daisuke and learns Nakamoto and Teiki are dead. Daisuke resigns. Katsuhiro reveals Nakamoto owned 2 dice that were a transmitter and receiver, and he planted the transmitter on Shigemaru. Hoshino arrests Kato. The other members of Modern Crimes manage to avoid the 1st Division officer monitoring them and locating the transmitter signal, while Suzu locates Shigemaru's car. Kato informs Hoshino of Shigemaru's survival, but Hoshino accuses Kato of murdering Teiki for causing the incident that made him unable to fire his gun. Hoshino later finds Teiki's resignation letter and realizes Kato is telling the truth. Daisuke locates Shigemaru's car and triggers a nerve gas trap indicating someone planned to kidnap him. Suzu finds footage of Frank Wainsky, bodyguard of Thomas Matheson, an arms dealer, before HUSC begins deleting the footage. Modern Crimes realize the transmitter is near Ora Wharf and inform Kato. Suzu emails everyone in the city offering 100,000 yen to everyone who takes pictures of their surroundings and uses all the photos to locate Shigemaru at Oro Wharf. Keto illegally boards the container ship Shigemaru is on, closely followed by Daisuke in an advanced underwater combat suit. Daisuke fights Winsky. At the same time, Shigemaru activates an adalium antenna that destroys Keto's phone and Daisuke's suit. Winsky destroys Daisuke's earring, cutting him off from Suzu, and starts beating him. Kato draws his gun to shoot Winsky, but hesitates again. Kato drops a shipping container between Daisuke and Winsky, allowing them to escape. Winsky refuses to chase Daisuke because his only job is to get the ship to Polier, so Shigemaru pays him 100 million yen to teach him a lesson. Suzu scans the vessel and notices the engine is unusually small for such a large ship, so she sends drones after it, narrowly helping them avoid an ambush. Suzu explains that Adalium is somehow powering the ship with zero exhaust emissions. Daisuke heads for the engine while Kato tricks Winsky by pretending to have fallen overboard. Reaching the engine, Suzu theorizes that Adalium creates energy from seawater and could provide the world with unlimited supply of electricity or be turned into a weapon. Daisuke begins sabotaging the engine, but Winsky appears and stops him. Kato also arrives and tries to shoot Winsky, but hesitates again until Daisuke encourages him to stop being a civil servant and be a detective. Kato finally shoots his gun, destroying the engine. Daisuke's suit reactivates and he defeats Winsky. Daisuke starts to arrest Shigemaru for murdering Teki and Nakamoto. Resisting the arrest, Shigemaru orders HEUSC to incapacitate Daisuke with the ship's laser cannons. As Shigemaru escapes, Daisuke and Kato deliver Winsky and his men to Hoshino, who is happy to see Kato appears to have returned to his old self. Daisuke and Kato thoroughly destroy the ship to hide the Adolium before tracking Shigemaru to the mountain's lab. Daisuke discovers the data on Adolium in the lab, while Kato finds an underground train leading to Daisuke's mansion. Before confronting his father, Daisuke hands the data to Suzu, whose real identity is his grandmother's butler, Hattori, who disguised himself as Shigemaru to deceive Daisuke. Daisuke encounters his grandmother, Kikuko, who admits she wanted to keep Adolium as a family secret so they could profit from it. Daisuke's mother, Sayuri, wanted to broadcast Adolium's existence to the public, so Kikuko had Hattori assassinate her and for years has kept Shigemaru prisoner. Kato tried to catch Hattori, but the butler resisted. He then shot the policeman in the thigh. However, the wound is nothing comparable to the butler's severe injuries. The young police finally managed to catch Hattori, armed with the knowledge that the servant had orders not to kill Kato and the critical injuries he still suffered. Daisuke almost orders Suzu to release the data publicly, but hesitates when Kikuko points out that Adalium could be used to create weapons of mass destruction. Kato, bleeding heavily, trips onto Suzu's computer and accidentally releases the data anyway. Amused at the result, Daisuke arrests Kikuko. 2 weeks later, a recovering Kato refuses an offer to return to First Division, preferring modern crimes, while Daisuke helps Shigemaru begin recovering. Modern crimes become much more efficient after Daisuke gives them HEUSC. Meanwhile, Adalium is now becoming public. It changes the world dramatically. It even starts appearing on the black market, with Daisuke and Kato working to prevent its power abuse. Stopping another black market meeting, Kato again falls into the river as an amused Daisuke watches, just like the first time they met.